I grew up believing I was lucky, the kind of child my parents always reminded was chosen, saved, and given a better life. And for years, don't miss out on the journey. Subscribe and let's grow, laugh, and learn together. I held on to that idea like it was part of my identity, something I was supposed to be grateful for no matter what, but everything started to feel off when I turned 17. Little things at first, like dates on documents not matching, old photos that didn't exist before a certain year, and the way my mom would quickly shut down any questions with a forced smile and a quiet stop overthinking, which only made the silence louder in my head. So one afternoon when I needed my birth certificate, I noticed the hesitation in their eyes before they handed it over, just a second too long, just enough to plant doubt that wouldn't leave. And later that night, I went looking for answers myself, digging through drawers until I found a hidden folder buried behind old tax papers. And inside, it wasn't just my birth certificate, but receipts, printed emails, and one line that made my chest tighten, a payment of $3,000 labeled documentation services, with my name attached to it years after I was already living with them. And in that moment, holding those papers with shaking hands, I realized something that changed everything. Backhand index pointing, right? I wasn't adopted the way they said I was. I didn't confront them that night, even though every part of me wanted to slam those papers on the table and demand answers, because something deeper told me that whatever this was, it was bigger than a simple explanation. So instead I stayed quiet and started paying attention, really paying attention, watching how they spoke, how they avoided certain topics, how quickly they changed the subject whenever anything related to my past came up. And the more I observed, the clearer it became that this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was something carefully hidden, something rehearsed. So I went back to that folder and read everything again, slower this time, noticing details I had missed before, email addresses, names, a company I had never heard of, and one location that kept repeating, Seoul. The word itself felt distant and unfamiliar, yet strangely heavy, like it was carrying answers I had spent my whole life without. So I searched it, not expecting much, just fragments maybe, but what I found made my breath stop, because buried under pages and profiles was a woman who had been posting the same photo for years. A baby wrapped in a soft yellow blanket. The image slightly faded, like it had been uploaded and re-uploaded too many times, but the caption was always the same, written again and again like a promise that refused to break. I'm still looking for you. And I didn't need anyone to tell me. I knew, in a way that felt both terrifying and certain, that the baby in that photo was me, that somewhere across the world there was someone who had never stopped searching, while I had been living a life built on something I didn't even understand. And that realization didn't make me cry. It didn't make me angry. It made me still, because suddenly everything I thought I knew about myself felt unstable, like it could fall apart if I moved too fast. So I didn't. I stayed calm. I opened every link, read every comment, traced every name connected to that post until I found contact information. And even then I didn't rush. My fingers hovered over the screen for what felt like hours before I finally sent a simple message. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional, just a quiet question that carried 17 years behind it. And once it was sent, there was no taking it back. No pretending I didn't know. So that night I sat at the dinner table with my parents like everything was normal, listening to their voices, watching their expressions, realizing how easily they played their roles, how natural it all looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel like their child sitting there. I felt like someone watching from the outside, someone who had finally seen behind the curtain. And when my dad smiled and asked, "Is something wrong?" I looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing move inside me. No anger, no fear, just clarity. So I reached into my bag, pulled out the papers, and placed them on the table between us without a word, letting the silence stretch just long enough before I asked, "What is this?" And the reaction was instant. Their faces changed in a way I had never seen before. The calm cracked, replaced by something sharp and panicked, voices overlapping, explanations forming too quickly to be real. "It's not what you think," my mom said, her voice trembling, but I didn't interrupt. I just listened because the truth had already settled inside me. And when they tried to justify it, tried to frame it as something they did for me, something that was supposed to help me, I finally spoke, my voice steady, almost quiet. I found her, and that was the moment everything broke, because whatever control they thought they had disappeared, replaced by confusion and fear. Wait, how? My dad asked, his voice no longer confident, and I didn't answer right away. I let the silence sit there, heavy and undeniable, because this time I wasn't the one searching for answers. I already had them. And no matter what they said next, it wouldn't change what I knew. It wouldn't undo the message I had already sent, the connection I had already started, or the truth that had finally come into the light. And as they began to panic, talking about fixing things, about making calls, about handling the situation before it got out of control, I realized something that shifted everything inside me, something that made me feel strangely calm despite everything falling apart around me. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one in the dark anymore. I wasn't the one being managed or guided or kept in place. I was the one who knew, and they were the ones trying to catch up, trying to understand how much had already changed without them noticing. And that quiet shift in power didn't need to be announced. It was already there, in the way I sat, in the way I spoke, in the way I didn't react the way they expected me to, because they had spent years believing they controlled the story, but now the story was mine, and they were just part of it, reacting, adjusting, trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. And as their voices filled the room, growing louder, more desperate, I simply watched, knowing that none of it mattered anymore, because whatever they thought they could fix, whatever they believed they could still control, they were already too late. Backhand index pointing, right? They had no idea I had already secured the truth beyond them. The first time she replied, it wasn't dramatic or overwhelming, just a simple message that carried years of quiet strength. And somehow that made it even more real, because there was no pressure, no demands, just a calm presence that felt honest in a way I wasn't used to. So when we finally spoke, the silence between us wasn't awkward. It was full, like it understood what words couldn't explain. And when she said, I never stopped looking for you, something inside me settled instead of breaking, because for the first time the truth didn't feel like chaos. It felt like clarity. And back home, my parents kept trying to explain, calling, texting, asking me to understand their side. But I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just stepped back and let the distance speak for me, because some things don't need a fight. They need a boundary. And I realized I didn't need to punish anyone to move forward. I just needed to choose myself quietly and completely. So I stopped responding the way they expected, stopped playing the role they had written for me. And in that silence, everything became clear, not loud or emotional, just final. Backhand index pointing, right? They didn't lose me. They lost access.